Well, thanks everyone. That's actually a really hard act to follow. I'm going to very briefly talk a little bit about some of the configurations that we actually use in our labs. As you can already see, some of the really hard stuff, he's your man right over there. So we send that to the NSRO. Just a brief overview. I'm just going to talk about some of our labs, some of the hardware configurations that we're using. Unfortunately, to date, a lot of this has been kind of bubblegum and duct tape, and we're trying to get away from that. And then I'm going to talk very briefly about some of these different devices that we're using in production. And during the demo, I can go into more details about this. I actually didn't bring any of the devices. Our digital archivist didn't want us to bring them here, so because he's actually using them as we speak. But I can talk about some of the configurations if you're having some issues or questions. Why? This really doesn't show up very well, but we're actually in production, and these are some of the stats that we're trying to get. We're actually, the main focus at this point is to actually get so that we're not creating a backlog of the media that comes into our labs. So just since September, we've processed over 1,100 images off of media. Most of that is floppy disk, not exclusively so. But that's kind of the goal behind all this. We have two labs. This is the one in green. Older part of it doesn't look very nice. It's our new lab. Needs some color. Originally, when we started out doing this, we had our digital archivist build some what we call native custom stations. And the reason behind that is because they had floppy disk controller chips on them. You can't get those anymore. You can probably buy them off eBay. We're not going that route anymore. There's no reason with a lot of the modern devices that I'm going to talk about now that you should be doing that. And finally, I mean, they're just not supported by a lot of the OSs that we're using that are actually running the software to do the capture. Some people might have heard of a cat weasel. Similar thing. It's got driver issues. It's not something I would recommend using. We're going to keep one in our lab, but it's definitely not something that we want to use in a production environment anymore. And also, we have some issues with some of these older devices just because we need to use older OSs, which is sort of security issues on the Stanford network. So we want to try to stay modern to keep our data governance board happy. A lot of people are actually using one of these. This is one of the workhorses that we have in our lab. It's an FC5025. Works really well. USB interface for 5.25 inch floppies. I would highly recommend it. It's cheap too, which is great. And we also use this. We're starting to use a lot more, and have actually found the ColorFlux to be really useful for some of the collection materials that we were having trouble reading. One particular collection from the University Archives, we had failures, complete failure on this 3.5 inch floppy disk collection until we tried to run this. So it's something worth considering. The only fallback with this one is if you're an institution, they want to charge you $3,000 for it. So it's and the hobbyists get it for $100, which doesn't seem fair. And this is just kind of a brief look at the interface for it. It actually reads the magnetic resonance off the actual media itself, which is really kind of cool. And finally, these are all the things that we send to Doug. So these are all different game cartridges and things, but it's kind of a cool poster of a lot of the stuff that we don't regularly deal with in our collection, but things that the NSRO is dealing with. And that's it. So I'm not sure how many people I'll see in my demo compared to what Doug's been able to put off here. But if anybody has any questions about configurations or hardware configurations or things that I may not know, I'd love to see you. Thanks.